Hello, and welcome to Wilcom's video short series for Embroidery Studio E4.0. My name is James Timmons, and today we're going to show you how to use Clipart when creating applique. I'm going to navigate up to my upper left corner here, and I'm going to select the Corel Draw balloon. As I left click it, it will switch over to Corel Draw. Right now, it's very important as always to understand and know what the finished size of the embroidery is with the artwork before you begin digitizing. And what we're going to do is we're going to go in. You do have the ability to go in and create shapes on the screen. And right now we're just going to go in and we're going to do a applique background, and we're going to put some text on top of it. Okay, and so we're going to go through here. I'm going to create an outline for my applique piece, and we're going to navigate here. Let's go over, and on the left side of the screen here you have your pick tool, which allows you to go in and select items, and second here you have your shape tool. And we're going to scroll down. These are some of the tools that we're going to use today, and I'm going to click on the rectangle tool here. Okay, and I'm just going to put a box on the screen or a rectangle by left clicking my mouse button and just dragging it over like this. Okay, I'm going to click my select tool, and this is going to be 7 inches wide. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to adjust the size of this, and if you see up top here, here is my section here where I can actually go in and change the size of the design. And what you'll also see here is a little ratio lock tool. This ratio lock tool allows you to be able to go in and just enter in one size, and it proportionately adjusts itself to the correct size. And right now this is, if you can look at this, it's open, it's not locked, okay? Which means that if I go here now and type in a number here, let's say that I typed in 2, and I press enter, it will distort my shape, as you can see, like it did here. Okay, so we don't want that. So as I go up top here, I'm going to undo that, and so we have to make sure that this lock, you're just going to left click on it to make sure that it's locked like this. And now when I go in and I just type in my number here in 7, well, let's even make it 8 and press enter, it's going to automatically adjust the size. All right, and so I can go in at this point here. I can press P as in Paul, which I just did here, and again, let me do that again. If you press P, it will center the design on the page. Okay, and at this point here, I want to go in also, and I want to make my corners here curved, and I want them to be straight like you see them here. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to navigate up top here, and I'm going to select my shape tool here, shaping. It's going to change the node points here to make them just blocks like you see here, and thicker ones also than before. All I'm going to do is I'm going to press my shift key down. I'm going to click on the node point here with my left mouse button. I'm going to drag it down like this, and that's going to allow me to curve all of the corners at once, okay, with my shift key held down. Okay, I'm going to release my mouse button and my shift key here, and just select here as my pick tool. All right, and so right now I also have some text that I want to add to this, and I'm just gonna do something simple here. On the left side here we have a letter A for our lettering tool, and or you can press F8, we'll do the same thing. And as I left click here, I'm going to navigate on the screen here. I'm going to just left click here, and I get my blinking cursor, and I'm just going to type in my app. Okay, for Applique. All right. From here, I'm going to navigate up top here. I'm going to click on the pick tool, and I'm going to make this larger on the screen here as I select it. Grab a corner here and just slide it off like this. But I want to make sure also that because the text here is going to be, I'm going to also press P to center that on the screen also. So with this text I have on my screen here, I want this to be a bit smaller here like this. And this is going to be actually a font that's going to be Stitch, is what this is going to be here. Okay. And so making sure that that's centered. Now for my applique piece here in the background, now what you can do here is I want to go in and I want to modify the font here that I have on here on my screen is the Arial font. Okay, and I think I have a font that's close to this inside the embroidery mode, so I will elect to choose that particular font, like a block font, and try to get this as close to the letters here as possible. Okay, and remember, you can, if you need to space things apart, you can always navigate back and click on the select tool here, and you'll see, as I'm going to roll my mouse button forward here, you'll see the little squares here. And so if you need to go in and add some space, here you have your tool that you can grab this and space this apart here and just drag it to the right to space that out like this. And I'm going to select also my pick tool, and I'm going to press P again to make sure that that's locked on the screen. So my text here is about 5 inches wide, so it's pretty it's a nice size. And so what you can do here, and this is just an option for you because there are several options to choose from as far as going in doing the applique. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to elect to do the applique first, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to add the text on top of it. Now with the auto conversion tool, I can use the auto conversion tool with the text, but I'm thinking myself basically that I'll pretty much end up using a font for that, because I do have a font that's close to this. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to tag my background here as an applique. So I'll just navigate and I'm going to click on it like this to select it, and upper left corner right next to the Wilcom icon, as I navigate here currently, and I'm going to select, here's your tag as an applique tool, shows you here, and I'm going to just left click it. It will tag the background here as an applique. Okay, and at this point all I have to do is go in and just navigate. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 spaces over from the applique tool, and I'm going to convert the applique. I'm just going to left click here. Okay, here I'm going to press 0. I'm going to press S to show the stitches, and I can then go in also. I'm going to click here up top, and I'm going to click on my applique piece here, and I'm going to change the color to blue here like this. So the applique part of this is not complete yet, because all I've done here at this point is I've gone in and I have converted the outline to embroidery is all I've done. At this point here, the machine has to be set up to run the applique. Okay, so I'm not done yet. I'm only completed here with the conversion from Corel Draw to the Embroidery Studio at this particular point here. And as I click, I'm going to navigate over here. I'm going to click on my reshape tool. Okay, and as I click on my reshape tool here, you're going to see something. I'm going to click my little arrow here. You see this little guy here. This is the, and I can click and move that down like this. This is what we will call the machine frame jump out stitch, is what this is here actually. Okay, and the way that this works is it'll go in, and I'm going to run the stitch player. As I select it here up top, I'm going to click it here. Oops, let me do this also. Let me stop this. I want to also hide the vector art here, which are my lettering here. I can hide that also because as I look into my color object list here, you will see these types objects here in the color object list. These are not stitched objects here. If you look up top here, anything that has a stitch associated with it will be to the far right. So here you basically just have vector objects on the screen. And so I can select it here. I can right click those and I can choose hide because I really don't want to see those right now. Okay. Now what I also have is I have my white cursor here, which is normally our auto starting endpoint. Okay. If you look here, it's currently in the wrong location because I want to actually move that to the center here of my applique. Okay, and in this particular case here, just with the appliques, I have to make an exception. So as I navigate up top here to the design drop menu, I'm going to left click here. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to choose auto start and end. Left click. Now this is what we normally see for normal embroidery. We have the apply auto start and end, the maintain automatically. Okay, and so we don't want this currently. We want to go in and we want to digitize our own starting and exit point. So I'm going to navigate down and I'm going to select digitized auto start endpoint. Once I left click it here, you'll see that the maintain automatically and the auto start and end is actually not usable. This one's grayed out and the check button is gone from the auto start and end. Okay, and my center here is also gone. Okay. The reason for selecting the digitized auto start and end point because I only want to click the mouse button just once, and that starting and end point is going to be on the same location. Okay, so I'm going to navigate up top here. I'm going to select OK. Okay, in the lower left part of my screen on my prompt bar here is asking me for a start and end position. Okay, I know it's in the middle here because here it's in the center of my box, and that's in the center of the page. So I'm going to click here also and left click. So as you can see, the white crosshair is now moved to the center where it should be. Okay, I'm going to save this now as I navigate to File. I want to save this first as the EMB file, and that is the Wilcom proprietary file extension. And we're going to save this as the Wilcom file here as the EMB, and we'll name this applique box, APP box. Okay, and I'm going to save this. Okay, so we have our design saved now, and so at this time also what I'm going to show you is what's going to happen on the machine. And you'll need to save this initially first as this design, because depending on what you're going to be doing in production, you may want to go in and break some items apart from the applique, and because of this you'll have to save your design as a separate design. So if you're going to save this like this one is applique box, the second design will be applique box 1. Okay, because I'll need to keep that original file here because with the original file I'll have access to it, so that if I have to go in and edit anything, I could do it to the EMB file, and it'll be much faster as far as the editing is concerned. Okay, and so right now I'm going to do a slow redraw on this. I'm going to do some stitch player, and watch this. It's going to first run and it's going to do the mark outline stitch first because it has to know what the shape looks like. And you'll notice the machine here right now, because I have not set the machine up yet for production, the machine here is going to do a frame out and it's going to stop. And that frame out is when the machine stops and we put the garment down, or the fabric down on the garment that is going to be appliqued. Okay, and that's what this is for here. And so once it does that, now because I have not set the machine up yet for production, I'm going to click start here again. So it's going to go back in and it's going to do the zigzag stitch here around the outline of it to lock the fabric down so it does not move. Okay, and as this is running, again, because I have not set the machine up yet, you're going to see another jump out for the frame. Okay, and I'm just showing you just to show you what is going to happen on the machine before I do any modifications on it. So right now it's actually going in and it's doing a underlay stitch on this. Now you'd have to determine if an underlay stitch is necessary for this, and this is doing an edge run, looks like an underlay stitch for this. In some instances you may not need the edge run underlay stitch for it, but that just depends on what type of garment it's going to be stitched on. And I'm going to speed this up here also with my little speed tab here. And so once it does all that, it's going to go in, it's going to finish this applique. Okay, now I'm going to click on my pick tool here to get rid of that. And so now I'm going to go in and I'm going to set the machine up for production. And we do that by selecting the applique piece here. And here, as we look at the object properties here of the applique, here it tells us that we are indeed working with an applique. Here the X means there's no fabric associated with it, or visualizations of any fabric in the background. If you so choose to, you can add some fabric in the background just to kind of get a realization of what it may look like once it's stitched out. And you could do this by navigating, clicking on the little arrow here pointing at 9 o'clock. Left click it, and we're going to do let's do the factory, and that's going to show us all of the fabrics here that are used inside the program here for the auto fabric assistant. Okay, and I want to change this to, let's use leather. So I'll click on leather here, and I'm also going to navigate to the color here, and I'm going to change the color as we edit. And we can make this another color here. We can create a color here also. This will be, we'll use this color here. Click OK. And you see what it does here? It shows that, and as soon as I click OK, it's going to apply that to my background here. Okay. And I'm going to go up top here and I'm going to click Save. Okay. I'm not going to change the design name just yet. I just wanted you to see what this does here first. So this gives us a visual on the background, what this is going to be stitched on basically. And as we navigate back to our applique properties, now here's where we're going to set up the guide run stitch that stitches at the beginning, and we have two options here to select from. The first option here is going to be a pre-cut. What that pre-cut means is that we're doing approximately 50 dozen of these, okay, and we'll need a cut file to send to our cutter, or we'll need that cut file to send to someone who has a cutter that will indeed cut those pieces out for us. Okay, and so that's what the pre-cut will be actually. Okay, the second option here, and we'll use this one, is called trim in place. This means I've got maybe 1, 2, or 3 of these to do, and I'm gonna trim these myself with my scissors. Okay, and so that's what the trim in place means. Okay, so depending on what version of these that you're going to be using will depend on what one you select here inside of the applique properties box here. Okay, and next here we're just going to go in the frame out position is what we're going to look at next, and this is what happens when the frame goes out and the frame stops the machine in order for us to put the fabric down on the garment. Okay, and we decide what we're going to do with it, and this is pretty simple here. So we're just going to go ahead and if you have an older machine, you may want to use a color change, but we're going to go in, we want the machine to stop, okay, initially, and as soon as I press stop here, okay, that means that when it goes in and does that mark outline stitch first, the machine is going to move the frame out and it's going to stop. Okay, and so with that done, as I navigate down, we can choose what type of tack down stitch we want to use for this. I'm going to navigate here really close to this, and I'm going to press T, take off the true view, so you can see this zigzag stitch. And so for this one, we'd have to select the applique. We have an option here for the zigzag, for the tack down, that we can use either a zigzag stitch, we can use a running stitch for this, or we can use an E-stitch. Okay, and the E-stitch is going to stitch it like this. It'll go in outside, inside, like that. But we're going to keep this our zigzag. Some people like to use a running stitch for this, and that's fine. Okay, so we have our zigzag stitch here. Now as we continue with this, this is going to be the tack down stitch. Okay, and we now have to make a decision also what we're going to do if we need the machine to go out and stop again, and to what we're going to do with this, or how we're going to control the machine here at this point. So we want the machine to stop. Okay, if you have anything that, if any additional type of any special things that you need to do for the design. Okay, in this particular instance here, because we've got a pretty simple one, we want to choose none. Okay, all right, and underneath that we have the cover stitch. Okay, and so that's what that is. And remember also that we can always go into our underlay stitches here, and depending on what you need for that, if you don't need an underlay stitch for that because you have the zigzag, you can just uncheck it and it'll take out the underlay stitch here, which is showing that it's doing a center run stitch. Okay, so depending on what you're using it for, let's say we don't want to use that. Okay, and because we're using leather, I'm going to press 0 for our full view here. I'm going to press T, and I'm going to save this again. Okay, so we've got that part of it done. Now the crucial part here, and the reason why you want to save this design as two separate designs, is that we want to be able to see what the die cut piece looks like, and we want to make sure that we can use that to cut our pattern out with. Okay, and so with that we can navigate up top here to our print preview here, and I'm going to left click on it. It's going to bring up our print preview, and here we have the ability to go in. We're going to go to options here, and with this we're going to go in and we want to make sure that we have the color film here selected, as well as the applique patterns. Okay, this is going to tell us the color sequence. This is going to give us our pattern. Okay, I'm going to click OK here, and once I choose next page, it shows us the production worksheet. Go here, it shows us the color film. Okay, here's the first color. Here's the second color here. That we can change that if we need to. If we break it apart, we can definitely change that. And as I go next page here, this is the applique here that I can actually, and it did this on 2 pages here, that I can cut this out, kind of tape it together actually, and see what. And it's 1-to-1. This is what it looks like on 2 pages. So it actually goes in and it gives you the actual 1-to-1 die cut piece that you can actually go in and print out. Okay, that you can use in your production, which is very nice. Okay, I'm going to click close here. I'm going to go back. So now with this, now if I wanted to go in and change colors on this, or make this one color, I could click this here and see if it'll change the colors here. If I'm going to undo it, and redo it. Okay, so because the reason why I did this, I want to make sure it did not change the color here to one color. But if you wanted to change this to one color now, and you didn't want to have the color change in it, what you can do is you'd have to go in now and break this apart. Okay, and breaking this apart is the reason why we have to create the original EMB file and save it. Okay, because if I go in and I right click on this, if I break this apart, as you see here, what happens is that now everything is broken apart. Okay, and we don't want to lose the die cut piece that it just showed us just now. And so normally everything is one object, is one piece here inside your color object list. But as you can see here, now we have multiple here, and these 4 pieces here is what actually made up the applique piece before. So if I needed to go here now, change colors, I'll go in here, go File, and choose Save As. But this time I'll change that. I'll make it a different file name, _1, and save. Okay, it's a separate file now. I can go in and I can select here, and I can make this color number 9. Now it's where now it's one color, and here for the jump out stitch here also, I can make that one color now. So everything is one color. For those of you who choose not to use 2 colors for that, you want it to just do one color. Okay, and this is the way that you would do that. Okay, so next on the list here, we're going to go in and I'm going to click Save. Up top, I'll right click on my vector objects here on the screen, and I'm going to unhide them. So now, because they are vector objects here, they're going to be in the background here. Okay, and so if I needed to go here now and if I wanted to see what the background looks like here, I can actually go in and I can right click here and break that apart. Okay, that'll show me what the background looks like here, if that's what you wanted to do with this. Or I could just, let me undo this. I can go back here to Corel Draw by clicking on the switch to Corel Draw. And as you can see here, because everything was stitched on the other side over there, so now basically everything here is locked on the screen. So that's what happens whenever you have a graphic on the screen. For this, I'm going to go back here. And so what we can do here for this is we do have the objects here that are on the screen, like that we see here. And if I go in here now, and let me say if I select all of these, and let's say that I want to go in and just I want to stitch these. What I can do, I have the ability to go in here and navigate over into the Instant Smart Design tool like this, and I can left click on the Instant Smart Design tool, and that's going to stitch the vectored objects on top of my imagery here. Okay, and I will click off of this now. Okay, so I have my lettering here now. Depending on, I don't need the vectors here anymore, so I can actually select this and I delete that because I don't need that anymore. And so if I need to go in and add my text on top of this, all I've got to do is go in. I will lock these down first. So I'll select here and I'll press K or right click here, and I would choose lock so they don't move. I'll measure the height for those by pressing M as in Mary. Click here and there, and this is 24.09. Immediately I'll right click on the letter A. I'll navigate and I'll type in 24.09. Now you could just as easily converted all of this the first time also, and but here I'm just actually showing you, teaching you how to, if you want to separate the items basically by working on one item at a time, this is the best way to do it here actually. So I'm going to go in up top, I'm going to press my caps, my app, and I'm going to choose a different font here also. So I'm going to navigate over, I'm going to click the down arrow here. Okay, and I'm going to also left click the lower right corner here to move this out like this. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to select here the one that's on top, click on the down arrow, and now that that's selected up top, I'll use my arrow. Let's see, let me go here, let me create my text. I'm just going to place that here. 24.09. Okay, so that's going to be the size of it here with this particular font, but it's not the right font I want to use for it. Okay, if I grab it and move it it tells me here that it is at least the about the same size as that. Okay, and I'm just going to go in. I'm going to widen that inside my object list here. I'm going to go in. I'm going to increase the width like this. That's how I have to go in and make that wider, just like that. And so with this, you know, I can use this if I need to go in, and if I need to center this one. Type 0 here for the position X and 0 for the Y, and that will center it here on my page. Okay. Now, when you look at some of the artwork from the graphics, sometimes it may be off. Okay, but at least now I have a font here. My concern now is the width of the columns here, so I'll press M to measure. It's pretty wide there. Okay, but keep in mind this font here also, we'll use a different font for this. So as I select it here and go up top here and click on my arrow, here I'll use my arrow here pointed at 3 o'clock to scroll down the list and change the font. Again, with that highlighted up top, I'm using my arrow on my keyboard pointing at 3 o'clock, and this is easier for me to scroll down to find a font that's close to what I have here. Okay, so I'll continue to press this until I see one here on my list that I can use for this. Okay, and as you continue to scroll, you will see a list of all the fonts here from our list, and you'll see some, you know, as you continue to scroll here, I'm continuing to press the arrow here pointing at 3 o'clock here on my keyboard for a block font here, something that will work here. So I'm not looking for a true type font because I know I've got something here. As I click here, I'm going to select this so that everything is being shown here again. So as I scroll down here, as I highlight this, I can begin to press the arrow pointing at 3 o'clock again. Okay, so as I continue with this, going through my fonts, this one looks like the block font here, so we can just scroll down and use the auto block here for that. Okay, and again, I can go in, I could change the width of this by going in and scrolling down here. We have our width here at 124. We can just take that in. Okay, and if you're trying to make it perfect here, you can just go in and with the space here between the characters, I can scroll down here and I can do the word spacing here by decreasing it like this. Okay, and as I decrease that, I can go back also and kind of line that up basically by widening the top of it here like that. Okay, and so this here also, I'm just going to go in now, and you can see here how the conversion went in and branched some of the characters here, and so I prefer it not do that. So I'm going to right click here, I'm going to unlock these, I'm going to click on them again here, and I'm going to press delete, and with this one I'll select it here and I'll change the color to black. Okay, and so now as I go in, I'll select here and go to my underlay stitches here, and for this one I would going to use a edge run underlay stitch on this one, and I'll also use a center run here because of the width of the columns. As I click and use a center run like this, and I'm going to save this. Okay, so right now we've got my applique, and so if I go here, I'm going to press 0, and I'm going to run the stitch player again to show you what how that's going to stitch out as it goes in. I'm going to back it up here. Okay, and we'll start this again here. So it goes in here, the machine goes up and the frame stops. Put the fabric down, press go again, it comes back in. And with this one, it's going to do the zigzag stitch here for the tie off to lock that fabric down so it doesn't move. Okay. And to finish this off as it goes in, we'll speed that up. And it comes back and it finishes the top row of stitches here. And then it goes in and does the lettering. Okay. And with this, it completes the design here for our applique. For my app here, go click here, the select tool. Let's go here, and we have to remember also that the you have to make sure that when you select this, I don't know if you saw this or not, and I did this on purpose. When you're using the applique tool, the machine did not go out and stop twice. It only did it once if you were paying attention. And so we want to trim this in place. We do not want to use a pre-cut. Okay. And so once we save this here as trim in place, and it may have happened after I've broken it apart, I'm not sure, but I'm going to save this just like it is here. And so this is how it's supposed to stitch. As I go in, it'll go in, it'll do the first, and once this stops, of course the machine frame is going to move out. I'll place the fabric down, okay, and I'll press start again. It'll go in. It will do the zigzag around the outside here to lock it down. Now watch what happens here that did not happen before. As it comes back, it should move out and the frame should stop again. As it goes in, now as it completes this, now right now at this particular point here, if we go in, as I looked at that just now, and I still did not see it go out and stop twice again. Okay, so this is why you have to pay close attention, that when you're working with the applique tool or any of the items here inside the program, you want to make sure that you do the stitch player, because the stitch player shows you what the machine is going to do. Very important. Okay, and so at this point here, I can go back here now. I can click on my applique piece here, and I can where I chose none here, if I choose stop for a second time here, okay, and save. Now let's watch it with the stitch player. As it goes in, let me back that up for you. That was pretty fast. So with this one, as it backs up, now I'm going to start this again here. All right, so let's see if it does what we told it to this time. Actually, as it goes in, does the mark outline stitch, goes up here, the machine stops, you press start again, okay, it comes back in and it does the zigzag stitch, okay, and as it goes through and does the zigzag stitch here, once it finishes it, okay, and so here, so what's happening here is, so there we go again here. So it did go back up again here. Let me back it up for you to let you see here. So once it goes back, it has to go up and stop again. There, and there's the second one here. Now you have to determine what stitch you want to use for that. Now if it's going to go in and do the second mark line stitch here for you, that's when the machine stops and you go in and you use your scissors and you trim around that object on the screen here, which we'll do with that one. And as you trim around it, you're creating your pattern here, okay? And so for this, we can go in and we can definitely make a change or an adjustment here with the applique part of this here by going in and changing the stitch type here. We have our zigzag stitch, and we do have a choice. I'm going to stop this here. We do have a choice here that we can go in, and it's doing a column C stitch here for this one. So we do have an and this is going to be the top stitch here. This is going to be the so we'll go back here to our underlays, and it's going to be under outlines this time for that one. And it shows us here that it's using a run for that one. And for this one here, we'll uncheck this one, okay, and we'll run it one more time. Goes in, does the mark outline stitch first. And these are the things that that are valuable to know when you're working with applique. Stop here, press start, goes back in, goes in, does the zigzag stitch here. And so when you go in and you're running this, the thing to look for when anything comes up that might be a problem is the only thing that I could see here that might be causing it to stitch twice would be this object here. Okay, this is your top stitch here actually. Okay, and so right now I'm going to stop this again here. Okay, so when I watch what happens now when I right click on this, this allows me to break that apart again there. Okay, and so here you have your first mark outline stitch here. Okay, it goes in, and once it finishes this one, the machine stops here. As soon as you press start again, the machine goes back in. But here is the column C stitch here that we don't need. Okay, and that's when you saw that before. I'm going to press this. I'm going to press delete. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why when you go in, having to break the items apart are important sometimes, depending on what you're trying to do inside the program. And so as I run this back now, let's watch it. Now this should be perfect. As you go back in, it's going to do that mark outline stitch here first. Machine goes out and stops. Okay, I place my fabric down, press start again. Perfect. Machine goes back in and does the mark outline stitch again, and the machine has to go out and stop again. Here. Okay, now when the machine stops here is when I'll go in with my scissors and I'll trim around the outside edge of this. Okay, getting as close as I can get to it without cutting the thread. Okay, and when that happens, I just press start again. Now it's going to go in, and it's going to finish this off. It has the run stitch around the outside of it, which we can of course change to a zigzag if we want to actually. But here, as it goes in and it stitches that, that running stitch will lock it. And so here we'll go in and we'll set it like this actually. We'll go in and then it does the text on top. Okay, so with this, this is what we're looking for this particular design. I went in and showed you some things that can happen sometimes with the applique when you're working with it to give you a heads up on some of the things that can go wrong with it. And so here I'm just going to go in now and I'm going to save this again as the second design, and that's going to do it for this this video. I want to thank you for joining me today, and as always we ask you to join us at www.willcomeamerica.com. Thank you very much. Have a good day.